Hey, welcome to a demo of Sliick Files version 2.7. In this demo, we're going to show you connecting Salesforce to SharePoint. So once you've installed Sliick Files, there's a Sliick Files admin app, and in Sliick Files settings, go to Setup and click SharePoint. You'll need to specify an integration user to use. There's two authentication modes: Service Principal App Only, which is having Sliick Files run as a service principal and take ownership of the files that's been written and read from SharePoint. And then there's delegated per user sign-in. This needs your users to authenticate themselves into SharePoint, but the benefit of that is it then respects their SharePoint access. So if they have access to a file in SharePoint, then they can see it. If they don't, then it won't appear in Salesforce. Now, I've already set this up, so I've done these steps already for setting up the external client app manager to pre-authorize the Sliick pipeline integration. I've already set up the Microsoft Entra app for SharePoint, but you may need to get your SharePoint admin to do the SharePoint side of this setup. They'll give you a tenant ID, and you paste it into here. Click this Create SharePoint Credentials. What that will do is go and create the name credentials and external credentials inside setup. So here I've got that open up already. It created the SharePoint Graph app, gave the that tenants, and you'll just need to add the client ID and secrets, and also give yourself a permission. That's all done. We've given that permission. We've granted access, and then you give it the SharePoint URL. So in my case, it's just a sample Sliick Apps sites test. You click Discover, and that should do a query and discover the actual site and the document library that your files are connected to. So hit Connect. Optionally, we need to allow list. We need to add that SharePoint to the allow list record so that we can access those files from the browser. So now to allow listed the SharePoint sites and also our own dev org. Test that connection, and we're live. So once you've done that, there's a few options here. SharePoint already does media processing pretty well, so you won't need to do any media processing. Now, folders. So you can specify your own root folder for all your Salesforce files so that they get mixed up with your other SharePoint files. So let's just give ourselves a QA dev test and hit save. All right, so all new uploads are going to use this folder. We can also give define folder mappings. So by default, it'll just use the name. But if you want the account to have by ID and account number, right, then you can do that as well. For this demo, we'll just keep it as simple as the name. There's also a bunch of metadata that it can tag to those files. Let's just keep them enabled to keep things easy. The last feature is sync. So this is a two-way sync, which allows SharePoint files or your users to add files to SharePoint and not have to access Salesforce. And then those files that's added in SharePoint will be surfaced and synced and appear in Salesforce as Salesforce records. This is really good for use cases where some of your users may not have access to Salesforce, like for example, your legal team, and they're just dropping in contracts or things to review into a folder. That's saved. Now let's give a demo on how that looks like. So I've got a order here, and I've already got these Sliick Files components. Let's upload a example. Maybe accounts. This is a sample PDF file, big long name, and it's actually quite a big file. It's 8 megs, which is actually perfect for storing them in SharePoint. So let's create a version, and you can click here, SharePoint, and that will open up the SharePoint sites. So you can see it's actually created inside the documents folder. I've got a whole heap of other folders for testing, and you can see I had the org ID, so I can differentiate them all. Our current one is called, what do I call it? QA dev. Right, it was on the order objects. Now orders doesn't have a name, so it used the number instead. and that's the big long file. Now, just to demonstrate, we can actually rename this file. So I'm going to rename this. It's way too long, so this is just the sample account PDF. Right. So now, when you come back into Salesforce, if I refresh this, there we go. That's now got the new name. Perfect. Okay, so what happens if your users go into SharePoint and delete a file from the SharePoint folder itself? So go and delete the test doc. You can see test doc is here. So let's go back and delete it. Looks like someone has it open. Oh, I have it open. There we go. Okay. All right. I will delete. All right. With any luck, this should be also deleted from Salesforce. Give it a few minutes, a few seconds to delete. There we go. And that deleted. Okay. So one of the use cases could be that your users would want to create Office documents inside SharePoint itself. Let's give an example of creating an Excel file. I'll call this test Excel test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's been saved. You can see inside the folder, it's there. And now inside Salesforce, this should also appear. Okay. Okay, so now if we click this link, that should take you to a SharePoint or the actual Excel file inside SharePoint. And so you can continue editing it here as if you're in SharePoint, which you are on the online version. Now that's it. So all those steps I walked through, it's all on the Sliick.com website for setting up Sliick Files with SharePoint, all the steps for the app mode or the user mode, actually the steps for your SharePoint admin to go through to create the tenants and the apps, client secrets, granting the, I think that should be the access. We've also got a Files API, and this will allow you to call Sliick Files from Apex or Flow, and that to define your own automations. For example, when you generated a document and it lands inside your Salesforce folder and you wanted to auto move it into SharePoint or any other storage provider. And that's it. Thank you.